Hey fellow mover, have you ever woken up in the morning and you could barely stand due to sharp pain traveling from your pelvis down the back of your leg? It's happened to me once and it was scary, but I was grateful. I knew exactly what to do to get myself mobile again. Now, I'm not a doctor, so do seek professional help as needed. But I'm going to take you through a little routine that may be able to help you calm such a situation down and hopefully prevent it from reoccurring. This can happen when your piriformis muscle, a rotator of your hips, presses against your sciatic nerve. Now, we're going to get into a little routine, but first, let me just tell you that I have a little something for you that will help you to strengthen your glutes and unlock your hips, so that you may have healthier and happier hips for the long term. This is a 5-day free challenge. And if you're interested in jumping in on such a challenge, just click the link in my descriptions box down below. All right, my friends, I hope to see you in that challenge, but in the meantime, let's get into this routine.
So we'll begin by creating a little space in the hip socket to release that sciatic nerve. So balance on a single leg on a step or some elevation and swing the opposite leg. Let it go. And again, let me remind you that this is a routine that I came up with from my own personal experience of dealing with this issue and applying what I know as a movement coach and rehab specialist. And I do believe that if you take the time to listen to your body, moving softly and mindfully, your body will generally tell you what it needs. But I think we've become so used to having outside sources heal our bodies that we don't trust ourselves, and therefore don't really take the time to listen to the body. But there's great wisdom there. Okay, moving on. Then we'll sit on the floor in what I like to call a wide leg crab. The feet are very wide and they will not move from there, but they will pivot from side to side as we rock the knees to the right and left. And then as we hold this fixed position, we're going to internally rotate through the hips. Here we keep the sit bones flat to the ground. The pelvis and the torso stays very still as we pull one knee into the center and then the other. And then we move on to external rotation as we pull the knees apart very wide. And here we let the pelvis really tilt from side to side as we press one leg down to the ground and keep the other knee wide. From there, we move into our 90-90 position. That is with the knees and hips bent to 90 degrees. Notice how that front lower leg is parallel to the back thigh. And then we hinge forward at the hips, either using the hands on the ground for a little extra support, or no hands. No hands makes it obviously much harder. If you keep the hands on the ground, I like to place one hand towards the sole of the foot, one by the knee. And the breastbone is pointing in the direction of that knee as you fold over from the hips with a long, straight spine. Next, we'll work through the back leg and create rotation through that hip. The knee starts in one spot and then the foot will replace the knee as the knee points vertical. This is creating external rotation at the hip as the knee points vertical, internal rotation at the hip as the knee lowers down. Do this with control. Actively move from your glute, from your hips, and feel that working right in that hip socket. The next move is internal rotation. Activate this move by driving down through that back knee and lifting the back heel while you keep the back foot pretty much parallel to the ground. Think of lifting the heel rather than the toes. And then take a little time to stretch out in this 90-90 pose. You can fold over that first thigh, the front leg, and you can let your hands walk all the way around that leg. Let the hands reach behind you. Let the arms reach out in front of the knee. And I love this one where you grab the sole of the foot with the same hand, rest the elbow to the ground, and turn the breastbone towards the ceiling. Create as much rotation as you can. And the hand that holds the foot holds right at the arch and attempts to twist the breastbone towards that sole of the foot. And then we'll get into our 90-90 position on the other side. You can place the hands down on either end of that lower leg, one hand at the foot, one hand at the knee, and fold over from the hips with a long straight spine as you attempt to bring your breastbone towards that knee. The chest stays lifted. We're extended through the spine and hinging from the hip. Activate your right glute in order to drive your right leg down into the ground as you fold into that leg. Then moving through the back hip, we're going to rotate through the hip by lifting the knee, pointing it vertical, and placing the foot down where the knee was. Point the knee absolutely vertical to fully externally rotate the hip, and then lifting the leg, don't slide the leg. Control the leg back down to the ground with internal rotations. Again, use your hands on the ground as much as you need. And then we have some internal rotation at the back hip as we drive down through that back knee and lift the heel. The knee presses to the ground, and you should feel this activate the outside of that hip for the moving leg. These are your internal rotators, so they're a little bit small on the outside of the hip. It's not that big glute max that takes up the entire buttocks. It's a little bit small on the outside of the hip. And then let's stretch out by walking the hands all the way around in a circle. Grabbing the sole of the foot finally with the same hand, grab that arch, keep the elbow to the ground and turn your breastbone towards the ceiling. And also spin towards the back leg. Let the opposite hand grab the back of that thigh as you twist towards the back leg. And then just let those knees flop a little bit from side to side before we move on to our side lying exercise. Here, we're going to lie down with our back maybe a couple inches away from a wall. My wall only goes halfway, but you can imagine that this wall, if it was extended all the way towards my head, I would be lying with my back maybe 2 inches away from the wall and parallel to that wall. Then you see I have the bottom knee and hip bent to 90 degrees, the abdominals firmly engaged to create that space underneath the waist. And then the moving leg is going to stay locked straight, and the heel will drive back into that wall. The toes will point straight forward, not to the ceiling, not to the ground, and slide up the wall as if it's trying to break right through the wall. So you're activating that top glute as you drive the straight leg back into the wall, slide it up, and slide it down. It's not going to go super high, maybe 6 inches to a foot off the ground, because we really want to make sure that those toes point straight forward and that heel is driving back through the wall like it's trying to break through the wall. And you're keeping tension through your abs, a gap underneath the side of your waist, the torso squared straight forward as well as the pelvis. And you're lying about 1 inch or 2 inches in front of that wall. All right, nicely done. Then we're going to move into a cobra position. And this is a great recovery and relief position to get into, especially if you're sitting at a desk for a long time. And this is with the forearms down on the ground. You can make a little bit of neck movement to stretch it out by lifting the chin and stretching the belly, and then tucking the chin into the chest. Also circling the chin around from one shoulder up and around to the other. And you can really allow that shoulder girdle to twist as you look all the way back towards your heels. Now lying flat on your belly, we're going to lengthen through the spine and look to the ground and lift the breastbone away from the ground. Keep your feet down and draw in through your abs. Engage your posterior chain, your back muscles, your glutes, and your hamstrings, and attempt to lift your breastbone. Then we have a swimming drill where we're lifting opposite limbs. Imagine you're swimming in the water, lifting one arm and the opposite leg and doing a little flutter kick. Work those extensors of your spine. Lastly, with the forehead resting on the forearms, you can squeeze the legs together, draw your abs in, and lift those straight legs just as high off the ground as you can, while you attempt to stay hollow and tight through your waist. This is another great one, straight legs, activating those glutes. And then wiggle it out a little bit from your belly before we get into a move that's going to externally rotate at the hips. Turn one knee to the side and attempt to lift that knee and the foot, clear the ground, and pull that knee all the way forward towards the same elbow. And you can start reaching the opposite arm forward. This is called the spider. So be like a spider and crawl on your belly by pulling one knee to the same elbow and stretching the opposite arm forward. Moving into a little cat and camel spinal wave. Spinal waving from the hands and knees to finish. But we do have one last final stretch, and this stretch can be done on a bed or on a sofa. What we want to do here is draw those abdominals in and hug one knee to the chest. The opposite leg should be able to drop right off the side of the bed or sofa. And as you press your navel and your lower back down and into the bed and hug the opposite leg into your chest, feel the weight of the affected leg as it just drops to the ground and takes a nice stretch for the front of that hip, for your hip flexors. And you can stay here and breathe deeply for a good 60 to 90 seconds, allowing gravity to do its magic.
Practice this routine 3 times a week if you can, and use it to ward off any unpleasant piriformis issues. But of course, if you have any serious problems with the area, go and see your doctor. In the meantime, you probably need to be strengthening your glutes and unlocking your hips. So jump into my free 5-day challenge. Hit the link in the descriptions box below to join me today. And in the meantime, keep moving naturally for life, my friends.